3 hours after we buried my sister Anna, her son threw away a piece of paper worth $3 million. I'm Margaret Washington. I'm 65 years old. I watched him do it. I didn't say a word. I just waited until he left. Then I reached into that trash can and pulled out the truth that would send him to prison. But let me back up. My name is Margaret Louise Washington. I was born in Oakland, California on August 3rd, 1960. I'm a retired elementary school teacher, taught 4th grade at Martin Luther King Jr. Elementary for 38 years. I live in a small apartment in Oak Park, Sacramento, about 4 miles from where my sister Anna lived for the last 32 years of her life. Anna was my only sibling. She was 3 years older than me. She died on April 1st, 2025, at 64 years old. Pancreatic cancer, stage 3. She lasted 14 months after her diagnosis. If you're listening from somewhere far away, drop your city in the comments so I can see how far this has traveled. And please, stay with me until the end. Because what I'm about to tell you isn't just my sister's story. It's a warning. It's proof that the people who smile at family dinners can be the same ones stealing from you in the dark. And it's evidence that sometimes the quietest person in the room has been watching everything all along. The funeral was small. 23 people showed up at East Lawn Memorial Park on Stockton Boulevard. That included the minister, Reverend Patricia Holmes from First African Methodist Episcopal Church, and 2 cemetery workers who stood at what they probably thought was a respectful distance, but was really just far enough to smoke without being obvious. Anna had outlived most of her friends. The ones who remained were too sick or too scared of their own mortality to show up to someone else's burial. I understood that. When you're in your 60s, every funeral feels like a preview. I stood at the graveside in my black dress, the one I bought at Macy's in 2019 for my husband Robert's funeral, holding a single white rose. Anna had loved white roses. She'd grown them in clay pots on her apartment balcony, even though the Sacramento heat killed most of them by July. Stephen stood next to me. My nephew, Anna's only child, 40 years old, 6 feet tall, carrying about 40 extra pounds around his middle, the kind that comes from expense account dinners and sitting in a car between sales calls. He wore a charcoal gray suit that looked expensive, probably was expensive, and a black tie that he kept adjusting like it was choking him. He didn't cry, not once during the entire service. I noticed that. His wife Rebecca stood on his other side. Rebecca Martinez Harrison, though she'd kept her maiden name on her law firm's website, I'd noticed. 35 years old, white, with that particular brand of beauty that comes from regular salon appointments, and knowing exactly which angles photograph well. She wore a black dress that probably cost more than my monthly pension, and heels that sank into the grass with each step. She checked her phone twice during the eulogy. I noticed that, too. Their daughter Maya, my grandniece, stood in front of them, holding Rebecca's hand. 8 years old, with Anna's eyes and Stephen's height already showing. She was the only one crying real tears. They ran down her face silently while Reverend Holmes talked about ashes and dust and the resurrection of the faithful. Grandma Anna always remembered my birthday, Maya whispered to her mother during the final prayer. Shh, Rebecca said. Not now, but I heard it. And I remembered that Anna had shown me the birthday card she'd bought for Maya's 9th birthday, coming up in June. She'd bought it in February, back when she could still drive herself to the Hallmark store. She'd already written in it, sealed it, put it in her desk drawer with Maya's name on the envelope. I wondered if Stephen had found it yet, if he'd thrown it away. After the burial, there was supposed to be a reception at Anna's apartment. Nothing fancy, just coffee and store-bought cookies, a chance for people to share memories. Stephen had suggested we do it at a restaurant instead. Mom's place is so small, he'd said when we were planning everything. And kind of depressing, don't you think? All those books everywhere. We should do something nicer. But Anna had specifically written in her final instructions that she wanted people to gather at her home. So that's what we did. Well, that's what 11 of us did. The other 12 people from the funeral had previous commitments or long drives home or whatever excuse people give when they don't want to sit in a dead woman's apartment eating Chips Ahoy. Anna's apartment was on Capitol Avenue, near 21st Street in Midtown Sacramento. Second floor of a 3-story building that had been built in the 1960s and hadn't been updated much since. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a galley kitchen, and a living room that Anna had turned into a library. Books everywhere. On shelves and stacks on the floor, piled on the coffee table. Anna had been a librarian at Sutter Elementary for 34 years before she retired in 2020. She'd taught children to love reading, to ask questions, to think critically about the world. She'd been good at asking questions. I was remembering that now. By 3:15, the last of the reception guests had left. It was just me, Stephen, and Rebecca. Maya had gone home with Rebecca's mother. "She doesn't need to see us sorting through a dead woman's things," Rebecca had said, like Anna was a stranger and not the grandmother who'd spent hours reading to Maya when she was little. When Maya was little and Stephen still brought her around. "We should start going through Mom's stuff," Stephen said, looking around the apartment. "The lease is up at the end of May. That gives us 8 weeks, but you know how much crap she kept." Crap. He called his mother's lifetime of possessions crap. I didn't say anything. I just started gathering coffee cups. "Aunt Maggie," Stephen said, using the nickname he'd called me since he was 3. "You don't have to clean up. We're just going to make a mess again anyway. Let's focus on the important stuff." "What's important?" I asked. "Paperwork," Rebecca said, already moving toward Anna's desk. "Bank statements, property deeds, insurance policies, anything financial needs to be organized for probate." I watched her open the desk drawer, the big one on the bottom right. She pulled out a stack of papers without asking permission, without hesitation, like she'd done this before. Maybe she had. "Most of this looks like junk," Rebecca said, flipping through the stack quickly. Too quickly to actually be reading anything. "Old utility bills, credit card offers. Does anyone actually keep this stuff?" "Anna did," I said quietly. Stephen had moved to the closet and was pulling out boxes. "We need to figure out what's worth keeping and what we can donate. I'm thinking most of the furniture goes to Goodwill. The books, too, unless you want any, Aunt Maggie." Did I want any of my dead sister's books? Did I want the physical objects she'd touched every day, the stories she'd loved enough to keep? What kind of question was that? "I'll look through them," I said. "Okay, but don't take too long," Stephen said. "We can't turn this into a storage situation. Rebecca and I don't have room for—" He stopped mid-sentence. I looked up and saw him staring at something in his hand. A piece of paper. Cream-colored, heavier stock than regular printer paper. It had fallen out of the stack Rebecca was holding, slipped from between 2 old electric bills and fluttered toward the floor. Stephen had caught it before it landed. His reflexes were fast, faster than I'd seen them in years. His hand had shot out and grabbed it mid-air, and then I saw his face change. It only lasted 2 seconds, maybe 3, but I saw it. His eyes went wide. His jaw clenched. His hand closed around the paper so tightly I heard it crumple slightly. Then the expression was gone, replaced by something carefully blank. "What is it?" Rebecca asked, moving toward him. "Nothing," Stephen said. The word came out too fast. "Just an old bank statement. Expired. Let me just—" He was already walking toward the kitchen, toward the trash can. "Let me see it," I said. Stephen stopped, turned. His smile was practiced, easy. The smile of someone who'd spent 20 years in pharmaceutical sales, convincing doctors to prescribe medications they didn't need. "It's really nothing, Aunt Maggie. Just paperwork from like 10 years ago. The account's probably closed anyway. Mom kept everything. You know how she was." He was at the trash can now, the white plastic bin we kept next to the refrigerator. "We've got actual important stuff to deal with," he continued, talking faster now. "The lease on this place, her medical bills, the probate paperwork. This is just—" The paper hit the bottom of the bin. I heard it land on top of coffee grounds and a torn envelope from something I'd opened that morning. "Worthless," Stephen finished. Rebecca was watching him with an expression I couldn't quite read. Not confusion, not surprise. Something else. Something that looked almost like calculation. Stephen's phone rang. He pulled it from his pocket, looked at the screen, and his whole body went tense. "I need to take this," he said, already moving toward the hallway. His voice dropped to a murmur as he stepped outside. I couldn't make out the words, but I could hear the tone. Urgent, stressed, not like someone getting a casual phone call at 4 in the afternoon. He was gone for 7 minutes. I know because I watched the clock on the microwave while Rebecca continued going through Anna's desk with methodical efficiency. When Stephen came back, he was already reaching for his jacket. "Amanda needs me home," he said. "Who's Amanda?" I asked. Rebecca's head snapped up. Stephen's face went red. "Sorry," he corrected quickly. Rebecca needs me home. I meant Rebecca. Just mixed up the names. Long day. But Rebecca's expression had gone very still. Maya has a project presentation Monday morning, Stephen continued, not meeting my eyes or Rebecca's. Some school thing. I need to help her prep. It was Tuesday afternoon. The presentation was 6 days away. You're leaving? I asked. We haven't even started going through the bedroom. I'll come back next weekend. Promise. He was at the door now, keys jangling in his hand. Just don't throw away anything major without checking with me first, okay? Like what? I asked. I don't know. Antiques, jewelry, whatever. Some of Mom's stuff might have value. We should go through it together before making decisions. Then he was gone. I heard his footsteps echoing down the exterior stairwell, heard the distinctive electric hum of his Tesla starting up in the parking lot below. Rebecca stayed for another 20 minutes, finishing her search of the desk. She didn't find whatever she was looking for. I could tell by the way her movements got sharper, more frustrated. I should go too, she finally said. Stephen's right. We can tackle this next weekend when everyone's fresh. She left at 4:38. I know because I checked my phone after I heard her BMW pull away. Then I sat in that apartment alone for 3 hours. The afternoon light had faded to purple, then deep blue, then black. I hadn't turned on any lights. I just sat on Anna's couch, the one she'd bought at a yard sale in 1991 for $75, and thought about my sister. Anna had been the smart one. Everyone said so. Straight A's all through school. Full scholarship to Sacramento State. She could have done anything, gone anywhere. But she'd gotten pregnant at 24, an accident with a man who disappeared the moment he found out. She'd had Stephen anyway, raised him alone, worked 2 jobs and still managed to get her library science degree. She'd been proud of Stephen. So proud. Even when he'd struggled in school, even when he'd gotten in trouble for shoplifting at 16, even when he'd dropped out of college after 1 semester. She'd always said he was a late bloomer, that he'd find his way. He'd found his way to pharmaceutical sales. Made decent money, or so he said. Moved to Las Vegas for a while. Then in 2018, he'd moved back to California. Said he wanted to be closer to family. Wanted Maya to know her grandmother. Anna had been so happy. And then, slowly, things had started to change. Anna started forgetting things. Appointments, names, where she'd put her car keys. By 2020, Stephen was taking her to doctor's appointments, helping her manage her finances, making sure she was taken care of. By 2021, her friends had stopped calling. Anna doesn't want visitors, Stephen would say. It upsets her. By 2022, Anna was diagnosed with early-stage dementia by a doctor I'd never met. By 2024, she had cancer and was refusing treatment because she said she couldn't afford it. Anna, who'd worked for 40 years, who'd been careful with money, who owned her apartment outright, bought it in 1993 when prices were low, couldn't afford cancer treatment. I stood up and walked to the kitchen, turned on the light, looked at the trash can. The cream-colored paper was still there, resting on top of the coffee grounds. I pulled it out carefully, smoothed it on the counter under the fluorescent light. It wasn't a bank statement. It was a certificate of deposit from Wells Fargo, dated April 12, 2017. Account number 4782-9936-2847-1103. Current value, listed in large numbers at the bottom, $3,245,670. $3,245,670. My hands went numb. I read it 3 times to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. The numbers didn't change. And underneath the account number, stuck to the certificate with a small yellow Post-it note in Anna's careful handwriting, was a message that made the floor tilt underneath my feet. Margaret, they don't know about this one. Take this to Patricia Reynolds at Wells Fargo Midtown. Trust no one in the family. I love you, baby sister. A. Trust no one in the family. Not be careful. Not ask questions first. Trust no one. Including, I understood with a cold certainty that settled into my bones, her son. I sat at Anna's kitchen table with the certificate spread out in front of me. That yellow Post-it note glowed under the overhead light like a tiny flag of warning. The apartment was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of old pipes settling. Outside, Capitol Avenue was empty. Even the bars had closed. April 12th, 2017. 8 years ago. 8 years Anna had kept this secret. Never mentioned it. Not during phone calls. Not during our weekly coffee dates at Temple Coffee on S Street. Not during those long nights last year when I'd sat with her after chemotherapy sessions she'd somehow afforded even though she said she couldn't afford treatment. $3 million. More money than I'd made in my entire teaching career. More money than Anna had made working as a librarian for 3 decades. More money than I'd thought existed in our family. Where had it come from? I pulled out my phone and Googled certificate of deposit. I knew what it was generally, a savings account with a fixed interest rate, but I needed specifics. According to Investopedia, a CD with a $2 million initial deposit in 2017, with compound interest at 2.5% annually over 8 years, would be worth approximately. I did the calculation 3 times. Approximately $3.2 million, which meant Anna had deposited roughly $2 million in April 2017. I tried to remember what was happening in April 2017. I'd been teaching. Robert, my husband, was still alive. He wouldn't die until August 2019. Anna had been working at Sutter Elementary. Stephen had been living in Las Vegas, working for some medical supply company that supposedly went under. What else? I closed my eyes and thought back. Anna's mother, our mother, Dorothy Washington, had died in January 2016. She'd left Anna some money, maybe $20,000, and a duplex in Oak Park that had been rented out for decades. And there was something else. Some commercial property in Folsom that our mother had bought in the 1990s. A small building, nothing fancy. Anna had mentioned selling it, I thought. Said she didn't want to deal with being a landlord. But I'd never asked how much she'd sold it for. Never asked what she'd done with the money. Why would I? We were sisters who trusted each other. We didn't interrogate each other's financial decisions. Except now Anna was dead, and she'd left me a note that said, "Trust no one in the family." I looked at my phone. It was 11:47. Too late to call anyone. But I opened my notes app and started writing down everything I remembered. April 2017. Stephen living in Las Vegas. Stephen's company went under, he said. Stephen moved back to California in June 2017, 2 months after this CD was opened. Said he wanted to be closer to family. Rebecca was pregnant with Maya? No, Maya was born 2016. So Maya was 1 year old. Stephen said he wanted Maya to grow up near her grandmother, 2018. Stephen visited Anna regularly, took her to doctor appointments, helped with grocery shopping. Anna started forgetting things. 2019. Anna's dementia getting worse, supposedly. Robert died, August. Stephen still visiting regularly, 2020. Anna diagnosed with early-stage dementia, COVID lockdown, March. I couldn't visit Anna as much because of restrictions. Stephen said he'd take care of her, 2021. Anna's friends stopped calling Anna doesn't want visitors. I tried to visit more, but Rebecca always had excuses 2022 to 2023. Anna more confused. But when I visited alone, she seemed fine? Sharp, actually. Remembered everything. Until Stephen showed up, then she'd act confused again, January 2024. Cancer diagnosis. Anna refused treatment. Said she couldn't afford it. Died April 2025. I stared at my notes. Anna had opened this CD 2 months before Stephen moved back to California. Anna had started forgetting things 1 year after Stephen moved back. Anna had been diagnosed with dementia that same year Stephen started helping with her finances. Anna had refused cancer treatment she supposedly couldn't afford while sitting on $3 million. And today, 3 hours after her funeral, Stephen had found this certificate, recognized what it was, and thrown it in the trash while telling me it was worthless. My sister's voice echoed in my head. Trust no one in the family. I picked up the certificate carefully and looked at it again. Wells Fargo, Midtown Branch. Account opened April 12, 2017. Patricia Reynolds listed as the account manager. Instructions. Take this to Patricia Reynolds. I looked at the clock. Midnight. Wells Fargo would open at 9 tomorrow morning. I stood up, walked to Anna's bookshelf, the one organized by color, blue spines bleeding into green, bleeding into yellow, and pulled down a worn copy of Moby Dick. The same copy she'd had since 1976, pages yellowed, binding cracked. I opened it to the middle, where the pages were thickest, and carefully slid the certificate between pages 400 and 401. Right in the middle of Ahab's final confrontation with the whale. A story about obsession. About a man who destroyed himself chasing something he couldn't let go. I put the book back on the shelf. Stepped back. It looked completely ordinary. Just another old novel in a collection of old novels. Stephen wouldn't look there. Why would he? Stephen had never been much of a reader. I was about to turn off the kitchen light when I heard it. Footsteps on the exterior stairwell. Heavy, deliberate. Coming up to the second floor. I glanced at the clock. 12:17 a.m. The footsteps stopped outside the door. My heart hammered in my chest. I stood frozen in the kitchen, hand still on the light switch. A knock. 3 sharp raps. "Aunt Maggie, you still in there?" Stephen's voice. He'd come back. Wednesday, April 2nd. I stood in Anna's kitchen, hand still on the light switch, listening to Stephen knock again. "Aunt Maggie, I saw the light on. Just want to make sure you're okay." My mind raced. The certificate was hidden in Moby Dick. The trash can was empty. I'd already taken the bag out to the dumpster. There was no evidence that I'd found anything. But Stephen had come back at midnight. Why? I walked to the door slowly, buying time to compose my face. Through the peephole, I could see him standing in the hallway, hands in his pockets, looking down at his shoes. He looked exhausted, or worried, or guilty, maybe all 3. I opened the door. "Stephen, it's after midnight." I know. I'm sorry." He ran his hand through his hair, a nervous gesture I remembered from when he was a teenager. "I couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about Mom. Thought maybe you'd still be here, sorting through things. Didn't want you to be alone." It was a good lie, delivered with just the right amount of concern and exhaustion. But I'd been a 4th grade teacher for 38 years. I knew what lying children looked like. "I'm fine," I said, just about to head home. "Did you—" He stopped, started again. "Did you get through much? The paperwork and stuff?" "Not really. Just collected the trash." His eyes flicked past me into the apartment, searching, looking for something. That's good. He wasn't moving. "Listen, I was thinking, maybe I should take Mom's important documents home with me. For safekeeping. Bank statements, property deeds, that kind of thing. Make sure nothing gets lost." "Anna's lawyer can handle that," I said. "Clarence Peaton. He's been her attorney since 1992. Stephen's jaw tightened. "Since when did Mom have a lawyer?" "Since always. He handled her property purchases, her will, everything." "Her will?" Stephen laughed, but it sounded forced. "Mom didn't have anything to put in a will. This apartment is a rental. She had maybe $10,000 in savings, some old furniture. It's not like there's an estate to manage." $10,000 in savings, while Anna sat on $3 million. Either Stephen didn't know about the money, or he was lying about knowing. I studied his face, saw the tension around his eyes, the way he kept glancing past me into the apartment. He was looking for something he'd thrown away and now regretted. "I should get going," I said. "Long day." Yeah, of course." But he didn't move. "Hey, did you happen to see any old bank stuff, like statements or account information? Rebecca mentioned Mom might have had some old CDs or something, certificates of deposit. Probably expired, but we should check." There it was. He knew. He knew exactly what that paper was. "I didn't see anything like that," I said. "Just utility bills and junk mail. Everything's still in the desk if you want to come back and look tomorrow, during daylight hours." Stephen's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Right, tomorrow. That's better. Get some rest, Aunt Maggie." He turned and walked down the hallway, but he stopped at the top of the stairs. "Aunt Maggie?" He looked back at me. "Mom really loved you. You know that, right?" "I know. She talked about you all the time. Said you were the strong one, the brave one." His voice cracked slightly. "I'm glad she had you." Then he was gone. I stood in the doorway for a full minute after he disappeared, listening to his footsteps fade, listening to his car start and pull away. Then I went back inside, locked the door, and sat down at Anna's kitchen table. Stephen had come back at midnight to look for the certificate, which meant he knew it existed, which meant he'd been looking for it, which meant my sister had been right. Trust no one in the family. Wednesday, April 2nd. I was standing outside Wells Fargo Midtown branch at 2001 Capitol Avenue when they unlocked the doors. I'd barely slept. Spent the night at Anna's apartment, dozing on her couch, jumping at every sound. Around 6 a.m., I'd gone home to my place in Oak Park, showered, changed into my navy blue church suit, and driven straight to the bank. The certificate was in my purse, wrapped in a plastic Ziploc bag like evidence, which I was beginning to realize it was. The bank was empty except for one teller counting cash and a security guard who nodded at me as I entered. Everything was marble and glass and that particular smell of air conditioning and money. I approached the teller. Her name tag said Sandra. "I need to speak with Patricia Reynolds," I said. Sandra looked up from her counting. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but tell her it's about Anna Harrison." Something flickered across Sandra's face. Recognition. Maybe concern. She picked up the phone, spoke quietly for a moment, then gestured toward a hallway. "Second door on the right. She'll see you now." Patricia Reynolds was 53 years old. I would learn this later, with silver-streaked black hair cut short and professional, and dark eyes that looked like they'd seen too much to be surprised by anything. But when I handed her the certificate, she looked surprised. "Oh, God," she said quietly. "She died, didn't she?" I nodded. Patricia closed the door behind me, locked it, pulled the blinds on the interior window that looked out onto the lobby. The whole sequence took maybe 10 seconds, and by the end of it, my heart was hammering. "You're Margaret," Patricia said. It wasn't a question. "She talked about you. Said if anyone came looking for this account, it would be you. Said you were the only one she trusted." "How long have you known about this?" Patricia sat down heavily in her chair, still holding the certificate. "Since April 12th, 2017, the day she opened it." She turned to her computer and pulled up records with practiced efficiency. "Your sister came in on a Wednesday afternoon, had 2 cashier's checks totaling $2 million. Said she wanted to open a certificate of deposit with the highest interest rate available, longest term we offered." "Where did she get $2 million? "Property sales. She liquidated 2 investment properties, a rental duplex she'd inherited and a commercial building in Folsom. Both sales went through quietly. She handled everything through a real estate attorney in Roseville named Martin Chen. Kept the transactions completely separate from any other accounts." Patricia pulled up more screens. "But here's what you need to understand, Mrs. Washington. Your sister was very specific about the instructions." "What instructions?" "That no one but her could access this account. That if anyone tried, anyone including family, we were to deny the request and notify her immediately." Patricia's voice dropped. "She gave me her personal cell phone number. Made me promise I'd call her directly, not her home landline." The home landline. The one Stephen would have answered. "She knew," I said softly. "She knew someone would try to steal it." Patricia looked at me with an expression between pity and respect. "Mrs. Washington, your sister came back 4 more times between 2017 and 2023, each time to verify the account was still secure, update her contact information, make sure nothing had been compromised. The last time I saw her was August 2023. August 2023, 7 months before she died." "She looked ill," Patricia continued carefully. "Thinner, but her mind was sharp as ever. She asked me if anyone had tried to access the account. I told her yes." My breath stopped. "When?" "March 2020. 3 separate attempts over 2 weeks." Patricia clicked through screens and turned her monitor toward me. 3 scanned documents filled the screen. Power of attorney documents. Dated March 9th, March 14th, and March 20th, 2020. Each one claiming Anna Harrison was mentally incapacitated and unable to manage her own finances. Each one bearing Anna's signature. And at the top of each form, listed as the designated agent with power of attorney, Stephen Michael Harrison. "These are forgeries," Patricia said. "Our document verification specialist flagged them immediately. The signatures were traced, not written naturally. The pen pressure was too consistent. And when we called the notary whose seal appeared on the documents, he had no record of ever notarizing anything for Anna Harrison." I stared at the screen. My nephew's name, his address in El Dorado Hills, his phone number, his signature at the bottom, swearing under penalty of perjury that the information was true and correct. "What did you do?" I asked. My voice sounded far away. "We rejected the requests, called your sister. She thanked me, said she was handling it, asked me not to involve law enforcement yet. Said she needed to gather more evidence first. Evidence of what? Patricia pulled a sealed envelope from her desk drawer. My name was written on the front in Anna's handwriting. She left this for you. Said to give it to you if you ever came here. My hands shook as I took it. Mrs. Washington, Patricia said quietly. There's more. Those 4 accounts I mentioned, the ones your sister came to check on, she had 4 joint accounts with your nephew listed as co-signer, added him in 2016. She pulled up new spreadsheets, rows and rows of data highlighted in red. Over 8 years, from January 2016 through January 2024, there were systematic withdrawals, small enough not to trigger automatic fraud alerts, but consistent. Look, the pattern was clear even to me. January 2016, minus $15,000, April 2016, minus $22,000, July 2016, minus $18,000, October 2016, minus $28,000, January 2017, minus $20,000, on and on and on, every 2 to 3 months, for 8 years. The total comes to $1,850,000, Patricia said. Every single withdrawal was made by your nephew. ATM cash advances, transfers to external accounts, checks made out to cash. I couldn't breathe. The withdrawals stopped in January 2024, Patricia continued. Do you know why? I shook my head. Because the accounts were empty. He drained them completely. She showed me the final balance lines. $0, $0, $0, $0. Your sister documented everything, Patricia said. Every statement, every withdrawal. She told me she was building a case. And Mrs. Washington, I think you need to call the police. I sat in my car in the Wells Fargo parking lot and opened Anna's envelope with trembling hands. Inside was a USB flash drive labeled, "For Detective Sarah Williams only," and a handwritten letter on Anna's stationery, the kind with little books printed at the top. My dearest Maggie, if you're reading this, I'm gone and you found the certificate like I knew you would. You always were the brave one. The flash drive has everything. 8 years of evidence. I've already contacted Detective Sarah Williams, Sacramento Financial Crimes Division. She's waiting for your call. Her direct number is 9168-085471. Don't blame yourself for not seeing it sooner. I made sure no one could see. That was the point. Stephen tried to steal from me 3 times in March 2020. Forged power of attorney documents claiming I was too mentally incapacitated to manage my own money. The bank rejected them, called me, and I started documenting everything more carefully. But the truth is, I'd been documenting since 2017, since I realized what he was doing. I opened the CD 2 months before he moved back to California. I already suspected he was stealing from the joint accounts. Moving back to help me just made it easier for him. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you while I was alive. Stephen would have destroyed the evidence if he knew I was aware. Some truths are worth dying to protect. The cancer treatment would have cost the CED. If I'd drained the account, Stephen would have gotten away with everything. The money isn't mine anymore, Maggie. It's evidence. It's justice. Take care of Maya. She deserves better than what her parents are about to give her. Call Detective Williams. Finish what I started. All my love, Anna. I sat in that parking lot for 20 minutes, reading the letter over and over until I'd memorized every word. Then I pulled out my phone and dialed 9168-085471. A woman answered on the second ring. Financial crimes, Detective Williams. My name is Margaret Washington, I said. My sister was Anna Harrison. She told me to call you. There was a pause, then, Mrs. Washington, I've been waiting for your call since April 1st. Detective Sarah Williams was 45 years old, black, with close-cropped natural hair and eyes that missed nothing. Her office was small, cluttered with case files, and smelled like coffee that had been sitting too long. She had 3 boxes on her desk labeled Harrison Case. Your sister came to my office on August 15th, 2023, Williams said without preamble. Walked in without an appointment, sat down and said, I'm being robbed by my son and I'm dying of cancer. I need you to wait until I'm dead to do anything about it. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Williams pulled a thick accordion folder from the first box. She gave me 8 years of bank statements, copies of the forged power of attorney documents, a timeline of every theft, every lie, every manipulation. She'd been collecting evidence since November 2017. Why didn't she just turn him in then? I asked. Why wait 8 years? Why let him keep stealing? She told me people believe sons over mothers, especially when the mother is old and sick. Said Stephen would claim she'd given him permission, would say she was confused because of dementia. She needed ironclad proof, so she spent years building a case that couldn't be denied. Williams pulled out a document, a formal complaint, typed and notarized with Anna's signature at the bottom. She filed this with my division last August, but she included specific instructions. Do not act until after my death. Do not contact my husband. Williams paused. Sorry, I know he passed before Anna. She meant don't contact you until you discover the certificate of deposit. Wait for you to bring it to Patricia Reynolds at the bank. Only then open the investigation. She predicted all of this, I said slowly. Every step. Your sister was the most thorough victim I've ever encountered, Williams said with something like admiration. And I've been doing this for 20 years. She opened the second box and pulled out more files. We've been monitoring your nephew's accounts since April 1st, the day after your sister died, and we've already found activity that concerns us. She handed me a printout. One line was highlighted in yellow. April 2nd, 2025. 1 day, I said. He waited 1 day after his mother died. That's obstruction of justice and money laundering on top of the elder abuse charges, Williams said. But here's what I need to know, Mrs. Washington. Did you know any of this? Were you aware your nephew was stealing from your sister? The question felt like an accusation. No, I said. I thought Anna had dementia. I thought we were broke. I thought the cancer treatment was too expensive. She protected you, Williams said. She told me if you knew, you'd try to fix it, try to confront Stephen, try to get the money back. She said you'd sacrifice the evidence for family peace. Anna had been right. If she'd told me 3 years ago, I would have sat Stephen down, talked to him, probably believed whatever excuse he gave me. There's something else you need to see, Williams said. She pulled out a leather-bound notebook. Your sister's personal journal, November 2017 through April 2025. 7 years of entries. She wrote in it almost every day. She held it out to me. The leather was worn soft at the corners, the pages thick with ink. Read it tonight, Williams said. Alone. It's not evidence, it's too personal for that. But it's her voice, her thoughts, the parts she couldn't tell anyone else. I took the notebook. It was heavier than it should have been. Mrs. Washington, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Williams leaned forward. Are you prepared to go through with this? Because if we move forward, your nephew is looking at serious prison time. 10 years, maybe more. And his daughter Maya, she'll need placement. I thought about Anna's letter. Take care of Maya. I thought about Stephen coming back at midnight, looking for the certificate. I thought about 8 years of theft. 8 years of lies. 8 years of Anna pretending to lose her mind while documenting her own son's crimes. When do we start? I asked. We already have, Williams said. But I'll need your full cooperation. We'll need you to wear a wire if Stephen contacts you. We'll need you to testify. We'll need you to be ready for what this means for your family. I don't have much family left, I said. Just Maya, and she deserves to know the truth about what her father did to her grandmother. Williams nodded slowly. Then let's get started. But first, go home. Read your sister's journal. Understand what she sacrificed. Because once we do this, there's no going back. I sat at my kitchen table with Anna's journal in front of me and a cup of tea I didn't drink. The apartment was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the sound of my neighbor's television through the wall. I opened the leather cover. The first entry was dated November 12th, 2017. Charles thinks I'm losing my mind. I heard him on the phone with Dr. Cooper today, asking about memory clinics. Charles, Anna's husband. He died in 2015. She meant me. She'd written Charles, but meant Margaret. No, wait. I read it again. The handwriting was shaky, not Anna's usual careful script. And then I realized this wasn't Anna's journal. Or it was, but the person she was writing about wasn't me. I flipped through pages rapidly, saw dates, saw dollar amounts, saw descriptions of thefts. And I saw something else. references to people I didn't know, places Anna had never been, events that didn't match her life. I stopped, took a breath, read more carefully. Then I understood. This wasn't Anna's journal about her own life. This was Anna's journal documenting someone else's case, someone else's story of theft and abuse and family betrayal. She'd been researching, studying, learning how these crimes happened so she could recognize them in her own life, so she could document her own case the same way. I went back to the first box Williams had given me and found what I was looking for. Another notebook, this one smaller, with Anna's name embossed on the cover. This was her real journal. I opened it to the first entry. November 12th, 2017. Stephen took $15,000 today from the joint checking account. Told me it was for property taxes on his house. I called El Dorado County Assessor's office. His property tax bill was $6,847. Where did the other $8,153 go? I'm starting a record. If this continues, I'll need proof. My hands shook as I turned the page. November 30th, 2017. I sold the Folsom building today. $1,247,000. Martin Chen handled the sale. He's a good man, doesn't ask questions. I'm taking the money and the proceeds from the duplex, sold last month for $783,000, and opening a CD at Wells Fargo. $2,030,000 total. I'm not telling anyone. Not Margaret, not Stephen, no one. Because I think my son is stealing from me, and I need to make sure there's something left when he's done. I read entry after entry, watched my sister document her own son's betrayal with the careful precision of a librarian cataloging books. March 3rd, 2018. Rebecca showed me hospital bills for Maya's emergency appendectomy. $30,000. Called UC Davis Medical Center. No record of Maya being treated there. The bills are fake. July 19th, 2019. Stephen brought Dr. Cooper to check on me. Had a whole list prepared. Forgetting conversations, leaving the stove on, getting lost. All lies. But I played along. When Dr. Cooper asked what year it was, I said 1987. The look on Stephen's face, relief mixed with satisfaction. He wants me diagnosed. He needs me incompetent. February 9th, 2021. Stephen changed my phone number without asking. Says it's to reduce spam. Now when friends call, they get disconnected number. I'm disappearing one person at a time. Margaret tries to visit, but Rebecca always has an excuse. They're isolating me systematically. And then the entry that made me put the journal down and cry. January 15th, 2024, Dr. Cooper confirmed it. Stage 3 pancreatic cancer. He wants to start treatment immediately. Cost, $250,000 to $300,000. I told him no. Margaret will be furious when she finds out. She'll think I gave up. But the truth is, I'm choosing to fight differently. If I drain the CD for treatment, Stephen gets away with everything. The money isn't mine anymore. It's evidence. It's justice. I have maybe 12 months. That's enough time to finalize everything. Enough time to make sure when I'm gone, the truth survives me. Anna had chosen to die. Had chosen it deliberately, consciously, to preserve the evidence against her own son. I closed the journal and sat in the dark for a long time. My phone rang at 8:17 p.m. Mrs. Washington? Detective Williams' voice. We have a situation. Stephen Harrison just called Patricia Reynolds at her home number, asking about his mother's accounts. He's escalating. We need to move faster than I thought. How fast? Can you meet me tomorrow morning? 7 a.m. We're going to need to set up surveillance. I looked at Anna's journal on my table. I'll be there, I said. Detective Williams had brought reinforcements. When I arrived at her office, there were 4 other people waiting. A man in a gray suit who introduced himself as District Attorney Thomas Brennan, a woman in FBI credentials named Special Agent Jennifer Park, a forensic accountant named David Liu, and a lawyer I'd never met named Clarence Peton. Clarence was your sister's attorney, Williams explained. He has documents we need. Clarence Peton was 73 years old with white hair and kind eyes. He stood and took both my hands in his. Margaret, Anna spoke of you often, said you were the strongest person she knew. His voice cracked slightly. I'm so sorry for your loss, and I'm sorry for what you're about to learn. We sat around Williams' conference table. Someone had brought coffee and bagels that no one touched. Let's start with what we know. D.A. Brennan said, opening a file folder. Stephen Harrison, age 40. Pharmaceutical sales representative, currently with Meridian Medical Solutions. Salary approximately $95,000 annually. Lives at 2847 Bridle Path Lane, El Dorado Hills. Married to Rebecca Martinez Harrison, age 35. Associate attorney at Chen & Partners downtown. He pulled out financial records. Their house was purchased in 2018 for $680,000. Current mortgage balance, $512,000. They drive 2 luxury vehicles, 2023 Tesla Model X, $72,000, 2022 BMW X5, $68,000. Their daughter Maya attends Sierra Ridge Academy, annual tuition $42,000. He looked up at me. Add mortgage, car payments, property taxes, and general lifestyle, they're burning through at least $200,000 annually. Stephen's legitimate income is $95,000. The math doesn't work. Agent Park took over. In September 2018, 6 months after they bought the house, Stephen registered an LLC in Delaware called Heritage Consulting Group. Delaware has loose reporting requirements, making it popular for shell companies. She displayed documents on a screen. Heritage Consulting has received $847,000 in consulting fees between 2018 and 2024. The payments came from offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. We can't easily trace them back, but we know where they really came from. She clicked to another screen showing the pattern. Money flowing from Anna's accounts to offshore banks, then back to Heritage LLC as legitimate-looking consulting income, then into Stephen and Rebecca's personal accounts. Textbook money laundering, Brennan said. But here's what you need to understand, Agent Park continued. Rebecca Martinez Harrison isn't just complicit. She's the architect. She's listed as Heritage LLC's CFO. She signed the incorporation documents. She structured the entire operation. David Liu, the forensic accountant, spoke for the first time. I've traced Rebecca's history. Her father, Jonathan Martinez, owned a commercial real estate company in Orange County. It went bankrupt in 2015 amid fraud allegations. He's currently under federal investigation. Rebecca learned from her father, Williams added. And we found something else. She was married before, from 2011 to 2016, to a man named Daniel Cooper. He filed a police report in 2016 claiming $85,000 went missing from his accounts. The case was dropped when Rebecca disappeared and the divorce was finalized. I felt sick. She hunted Stephen. She found him and used him. We believe so, Agent Park said. They met at a pharmaceutical conference in Las Vegas in 2017, married in 2018. 3 months later, Heritage LLC was registered. Clarence Peaton finally spoke. He pulled out a sealed box labeled Harrison Case to be opened after death. Anna came to me 6 times between 2017 and 2024, he said quietly. Each time she added more evidence. Bank statements, text messages, recorded phone calls. And in March 2024, 10 days before she died, she recorded a video testimony. It's notarized and sworn. She wanted to make sure her voice would be heard, even after she was gone. He placed a USB drive on the table. This is 37 minutes of your sister explaining everything. Every theft, every manipulation, every moment she pretended to be confused while building her case. When can we arrest them? I asked. Brennan and Williams exchanged glances. We need to move carefully, Brennan said. Wire fraud, money laundering, elder abuse, these are serious charges. We need everything airtight. How long? 72 hours, Williams said. We're executing arrest warrants on Sunday morning, April 6th, 6:45 a.m. 3 more days of Stephen and Rebecca walking around free. 3 more days of them thinking they'd gotten away with it. There's one more thing, Williams said gently. Maya, when we arrest her parents, Child Protective Services will be called. She'll need immediate placement. You're her closest relative besides her parents. Are you willing to take her? I thought about Anna's letter. Take care of Maya. She deserves better than what her parents are about to give her. Yes, I said. I'll take her. Sunday, April 6th. I was sitting at my kitchen table when Williams called. We're in position, she said. 2 units at the El Dorado Hills residence. 1 unit at Rebecca's law office. This is happening. My phone was on speaker. I could hear background noise, radio chatter, car doors, someone giving quiet instructions. "Stephen just answered the door," Williams said, her voice dropping. "He's in pajamas, barefoot. Margaret, do you want me to stay on the line?" "Yes." I heard Williams identify herself, heard her say the words that would change everything. "Stephen Michael Harrison, you're under arrest for elder financial abuse, forgery, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit fraud. Turn around and put your hands behind your back." Then Stephen's voice, confused and rising in panic. "What? What are you talking about? There's been a mistake." "No mistake, Mr. Harrison. We have documentation of $1,850,000 withdrawn from accounts belonging to your mother between 2016 and 2024. We have 3 forged power of attorney attempts from March 2020. We have—" A woman's voice cut in. "Rebecca, sharp and controlled even now. Don't say anything, Stephen. We need our lawyer. Don't say one word." "He's not resisting," Williams narrated for me. "White dress shirt, barefoot, hands behind his back. Rebecca's coming down the stairs. She's—" "Wait." A child's voice in the background, high and frightened. "Daddy? Why are the police here? Daddy, what's happening?" "Maya." "Someone get CPS on the line," Williams said, her voice moving away from the phone. Then closer. "Margaret, are you still there?" "I'm here." "Stephen just said something. He asked if you were involved. If this was because of that certificate." Even now, even caught, he was still thinking about the money. "Second unit confirms," a male voice said in the background. "Rebecca Martinez Harrison in custody at her office location. Not cooperative, demanding attorney." Williams came back on the line. "Both subjects in custody. Margaret, CPS is here for Maya. Are you able to come to the station?" "I'm on my way." Maya sat in a small playroom, clutching a stuffed elephant, her eyes red and swollen from crying. Jennifer Torres, the CPS caseworker, stood with me in the hallway. She was 32 years old, Latina, with a kind face that had seen too much sadness. "She's been asking for her grandmother," Jennifer said softly. "She doesn't understand that Anna's gone. She keeps saying, 'Grandma will fix this.' Grandma always fixes things." My throat tightened. "You're listed as next of kin after the parents," Jennifer continued. "If you're willing to take temporary custody, we can expedite the paperwork. Otherwise, she goes into the foster system today." "I'll take her." Jennifer studied my face. "Mrs. Washington, you understand this isn't temporary. Her parents are looking at serious prison time. You'd be taking custody of an 8-year-old who just lost her grandmother and watched her parents get arrested. That's a lot for a 65-year-old woman." "I'm 65, not 95, I said. "And that little girl is family." Jennifer nodded. "Then let's go meet her." Maya looked up when we entered. Her face was Anna's face. Same eyes, same chin, same way of tilting her head when she was thinking. "Hi, Maya. I'm your Aunt Margaret. Your Aunt Maggie. Do you remember me?" Maya nodded slowly. "You came to Grandma Anna's funeral. You wore a black dress." "That's right." I sat down on the floor beside her, joints protesting. "And you wore a purple dress with flowers." "Purple's my favorite color. Grandma Anna knew that." Her voice broke. She always remembered. "Your Grandma Anna loved you very much, sweetheart, and she asked me to take care of you." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "Are Mommy and Daddy coming back?" This was it, the first hard truth. "Not for a long time, baby." "Did they do something bad?" "Yes." "To Grandma Anna?" I froze. "What makes you say that?" Maya hugged her elephant tighter. "I heard Daddy yelling once, last year. He said Grandma Anna was hiding money. Mommy told him to be quiet because I might hear, but I already heard. Children always know. They always know more than we think. Your grandma was very brave," I said carefully, "and she made sure the truth came out, even though it was hard, even though it hurt." "Is that why she pretended to forget things?" Maya asked. "Because she was being brave?" I stared at this 8-year-old child who'd understood what most adults had missed. "How did you know she was pretending?" "Because she never forgot my favorite color. Never. And she never forgot my birthday. She remembered everything that was important." 3 weeks later, I sat in the 3rd row of the courtroom, wearing my Navy church suit again. Maya was with Dr. Lisa Thompson, her new therapist. Too young to attend the trial, but old enough to need to know what was happening. Judge Eleanor Hartman presided. 64 years old, gray hair, wire-rimmed glasses, and a reputation for being fair but unforgiving in elder abuse cases. Stephen and Rebecca sat at separate defense tables. Different lawyers, different strategies. Stephen's attorney, Maxwell Grant, was going for the misunderstanding defense. Rebecca's attorney, Austin Reed, was going for blame Stephen. D.A. Brennan stood for his opening statement. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Anna Harrison spent her final year pretending to lose her mind while documenting her son's crimes. She faked dementia. She failed cognitive tests on purpose. Why? Because Stephen Harrison was stealing from her. $1,850,000 over 8 years. And Rebecca Harrison built the system that let him hide it. The trial lasted 3 days. Patricia Reynolds testified about the forged power of attorney attempts. Anna warned me in 2017 that someone might try to steal from her. When Stephen submitted those documents in March 2020, I knew immediately they were fraudulent. Dr. Michael Cooper testified about Anna's cancer refusal. She had stage 3 pancreatic cancer. Treatment would cost $200,000 to $300,000. She refused, said she couldn't afford it. But I later learned she had access to over $3 million. She chose to die rather than use that money. The courtroom went silent. Daniel Cooper, Rebecca's ex-husband, testified about similar theft patterns. I was married to Rebecca from 2011 to 2016. $85,000 went missing from my accounts. When I confronted her, she said I must have forgotten making the withdrawals. She suggested I was under stress. By the time I realized what happened, she'd filed for divorce. He looked at Stephen with something like pity. I'm sorry I didn't report her. If I had, maybe Anna Harrison would still be alive. But the moment that changed everything came on the 3rd day. The prosecution calls Anna Harrison, Brennan announced. Maxwell Grant was on his feet immediately. Objection. The victim is deceased. Exception for unavailable declarant, Your Honor, Brennan countered. Mrs. Harrison recorded sworn testimony in March 2024, anticipating exactly this situation. Judge Hartman considered. I'll allow it. The lights dimmed. The screen at the front of the courtroom glowed to life. And there was Anna. She looked thin, cancer thin, dark circles under her eyes, but her gaze was steady and sharp. My name is Anna Marie Harrison. I'm recording this on March 15, 2024. I've been diagnosed with stage 3 pancreatic cancer. I have maybe 6 months left. I gripped the bench in front of me. I'm refusing treatment because the money I would need is the only evidence in a criminal case against my son. She paused, gathered strength. I've been pretending to have dementia since November 2017. I did it to protect evidence. I failed cognitive tests on purpose. I let my son think I couldn't remember my own address. Why? Because Stephen was stealing from me. Not a mistake. Systematic theft over 8 years. Nearly $2 million. To the jury, my son and his wife are guilty. They stole $1,850,000. They isolated me. They forged documents. This isn't a misunderstanding. It's a crime. Her voice cracked. To Stephen, she looked directly at the camera as if she could see him. I loved you, baby. You were my miracle child. I raised you alone. Worked 2 jobs to put you through college. I would have helped you if you'd asked, but you chose to steal from me while I was dying. I can't forgive that. Tears ran down her face. To Margaret, I'm sorry I didn't tell you. Use the money to help others. Take care of Maya. Tell her Grandma wasn't confused. Grandma was watching, and Grandma loves her more than all the stars. The screen went dark. The courtroom was completely silent. Stephen had his head in his hands, shoulders shaking. Rebecca sat stone-faced, already calculating her appeal. 3 hours later, the jury was out for 3 hours and 17 minutes. When they returned, the forewoman stood. On count 1, elder financial abuse, guilty. On count 2, forgery, guilty. On count 3, conspiracy to commit wire fraud, guilty. All 13 counts, guilty. Sentencing came 1 week later. Stephen Michael Harrison, you are sentenced to 12 years in federal prison, 5 years supervised release. Restitution of $1,850,000, jointly and severally with your co-defendant. Rebecca Martinez Harrison, you are sentenced to 10 years in federal prison, 3 years supervised release. Same restitution applies. As the marshals led them away, Stephen looked back at me. Aunt Maggie, I'm sorry. Tell Maya I'm sorry. Rebecca didn't look back at all. 6 months later, Maya's room in my apartment was painted lavender. Her choice. Posters of constellations covered the walls. A chess set sat on her desk. I was teaching her to play, just like Anna had taught me 40 years ago. She was doing better, slowly. Dr. Thompson said she was processing the trauma in a healthy way. She still had nightmares sometimes, still asked questions I didn't always know how to answer. But she was smiling more, laughing at cartoons, bringing home straight A's from her new school. The Anna Harrison Foundation for Elder Justice opened on December 15, 2025. Small office on J Street, 3 blocks from Wells Fargo. Patricia Reynolds volunteered as our financial advisor. Dr. Cooper served as medical consultant. By March 2026, we'd helped 18 families recover over $2 million in stolen assets. One evening in late November, Maya looked up from her homework. Aunt Maggie, was Grandma Anna really brave? The bravest person I ever knew. Braver than you? I smiled. Much braver. Maya and I visited Anna's grave on the anniversary of what would have been her 65th birthday. The headstone was simple granite with her name, dates, and a single line. The truth is patient. It waits longer than any lie. Maya had chosen those words, found them underlined 3 times in Anna's journal. She placed a white chess queen on top of the stone. Our ritual now. Hi, Grandma Anna. I beat Aunt Maggie at chess today. She says you'd be proud. The wind rustled through the oak trees. The foundation helped another family this week, a lady whose son stole from her, just like you. Aunt Maggie says we're making a difference. She traced her finger over the engraved letters. I miss you, but I understand now why you did it. You were protecting people. You were protecting me. I knelt beside her and put my arm around her shoulders. We sat there for a while, 2 figures against the headstone, oak tree overhead, late afternoon light turning everything gold. I'm Margaret Louise Washington. I'm 65 years old. I learned something important this year. At 65, I learned that the people who hurt us most are often the ones we trusted most. That family doesn't guarantee loyalty, that blood doesn't equal love. But I also learned that justice can be quiet, that truth can wait, that sometimes the greatest victory isn't revenge. It's protecting the people who come after. Anna spent 8 years building a case against her own son. 8 years of pretending, documenting, suffering in silence. She died protecting evidence that would save others from the same fate. The foundation has her name. Maya has her eyes. And I have her courage. The courage to finish what she started. $3 million. That's what the certificate was worth. But what my sister gave me, gave all of us, was worth so much more. She gave us proof that the truth always survives, that patience is more powerful than rage, that an old woman who everyone underestimates might be the strongest person in the room. I still have that cream-colored paper, framed now, hanging in the foundation office. Not because of the numbers on it, but because of the yellow Post-it note still attached. Trust no one in the family. I love you, baby sister. Anna was right to be cautious, right to wait, right to document everything. But she was wrong about one thing. She thought she was fighting alone. She wasn't. She had me. She always had me. And now she has 18 families who sleep better at night because her evidence helped them. She has Maya, growing up knowing her grandmother was a warrior. She has every person who hears this story and checks on their elderly parents, asks uncomfortable questions, refuses to ignore the warning signs. On quiet Sunday mornings, I sit on my porch with coffee and watch Maya practice chess moves at the kitchen table. Sometimes I imagine Anna sitting beside me, shaking her head at how her little sister ended up raising her granddaughter at 65. But mostly I imagine her smiling, because the truth came out. Justice was served, and the people she loved are safe. That's all she ever wanted. If you're listening to this story, I have one request. Check on your elderly parents. Look at their bank statements. Ask questions. Don't assume family members have good intentions just because they're family. Elder financial abuse affects 1 in 10 Americans over 60. My sister fought back. She won. But she shouldn't have had to die to do it. Learn from her courage. Honor her sacrifice. Protect the vulnerable people in your life. That's the real value of that certificate. Not $3 million, the truth that survived it. My name is Margaret Washington. I'm 65 years old, and I'm just getting started.